You are wasting so much money while buying lumber without even knowing. Not once, not by accident, but every single time. You walked into Home Depot thinking you were getting a good deal. What you didn't know is that you've been setting yourself up not just to waste money, but to waste hours of your life fixing warped boards and rebuilding projects that should have lasted years. These are the 10 costly mistakes everyone makes when shopping wood at Home Depot. So let's rip the sticker off the first mistake almost no one sees coming. Mistake 1. The all wood is created equal. Myth. You walk into Home Depot with a plan. A shelf, a deck, a workbench. It doesn't matter. You head straight to the lumber aisle, grab the size you need, and you think the job is already half done. After all, wood is wood, right? A board is a board. Pine, cedar, plywood, does it really matter? That's the lie, the silent trap. Because what you don't realize is that every type of wood has a personality, and every one of them reacts differently once they leave the store. Some rot, some warp, some crack under pressure, and others, they'll survive storms, termites, and time, but they'll cost more up front, so you didn't even look at them. Suddenly that cheapest option starts bending like wet spaghetti. The wrong species in the wrong place isn't just a mistake, it's sabotage, and it's almost guaranteed you've already done it. Once you understand that every wood type has a job indoor, outdoor, load-bearing, rot-resistant, you stop guessing, and you start building things that last. You go from wasting weekends fixing mistakes to building projects you're actually proud of. But even the right kind of wood is useless if you ignore the one stamp that decides everything. Mistake 2. Wood grade. The silent wallet killer. You think you found the right type of wood, and that's good. But then you make the mistake almost everyone makes next. You assume all boards of the same size are created equal. You look at the surface, maybe you squint at a knot or two, and you say, it's fine. But there's a tiny stamp burned into the side of that board, and that stamp is about to decide whether your project holds up for 5 years or falls apart in 5 months. Most people ignore it. Most people don't even know it exists. But that grade tells you everything. How strong the board is, whether it has hidden cracks, how many knots it has, and where they're hiding inside the wood. Pick a low-grade board for a high-duty project, and you're just building failure into the frame. It might look fine right now, but give it time. Gravity and humidity always get their revenge. You don't see it at checkout. You don't see it in the cart. You only see the mistake when it's too late, and you're halfway through tearing apart your project and your patience. The stamp was right there, and it tried to warn you, and just when you think you're being careful, there's a flaw hiding in plain sight that ruins everything before it even leaves the store. Mistake 3. The warped, twisted, bowed board trap. The cart's loaded. The boards look clean. The project feels on track. But later, back in the garage, reality shows up. That perfect piece of lumber suddenly looks like it came from a pretzel factory. Bent, twisted, bowed, and somehow longer on one side than the other. The mistake happened in the aisle. The surface was checked, but the board was never stood upright. No one eyeballed the edge, sighted down the length, or checked for the subtle curve that only reveals itself once it's too late. It's not a secret flaw. Stores don't hide it. They just know most shoppers are in a rush and don't inspect the lumber like their project depends on it. A warped board doesn't fix itself. It doesn't straighten out overnight. It doesn't care how much hope or elbow grease gets thrown at it. Once it's twisted, it stays twisted, and the next thing to bend is the budget, the timeline, and the builder's patience. Worse, that warped board cost full price. It's a flaw that could have been spotted and avoided with a little more time in the aisle and a lot less frustration at home. But even perfectly straight wood can mess everything up thanks to a mistake that hides behind the price tag. Mistake 4. Trusting the label, not the tape. The board says 8 feet. The aisle label says 8 feet. The project plan calls for 8 feet, so it must be 8 feet. Right? Wrong. Lumber lies. Not intentionally, but reliably. Boards are often cut short, edges splintered, ends crushed from handling. And if the wood is already warped or bowed, that 8-foot promise becomes more of a suggestion than a fact. Builders blame themselves when the math doesn't line up, when the cut list falls short, when a perfect measurement on paper turns into a frantic second trip to the store. But the mistake wasn't in the project. It was in trusting the sticker instead of pulling out a tape. Lumber is sold in nominal sizes. That means a board labeled 8 feet might measure 7 feet, 10 inches once the wasted ends are cut clean. And worse, the real dimensions never get printed in bold letters. They get buried in fine print and false assumptions. A simple tape measure in the aisle saves hours of rework and a weekend full of frustration. Measure at the store, not the garage. Trust the tape, not the tag. Because even if the length is right, the real problem might not be in the inches, but in the moisture hiding inside the wood. Mistake 5. Ignoring moisture, the invisible sabotage. The board feels smooth. The length is perfect. The price is right. But there's one thing hiding inside that piece of lumber that almost no one checks. And it's the silent reason so many projects warp, crack, and fall apart long after they're finished. Moisture. Freshly milled wood is loaded with it, sometimes more water than wood, and Home Depot doesn't. Kiln dry every board. Many sit in open-air racks, absorbing humidity, soaking up rain during deliveries, or drying unevenly under store lighting. That means a board can look straight today and bend like a bowstring next week. Doors won't close right. Shelves start sagging. Decks begin cupping or cracking. Not because the build was bad, but because the lumber was wet. A moisture meter costs less than replacing a warped panel, but almost no one brings one. Fewer still know how to judge by weight, sound, or texture. And by the time the swelling starts, the blame gets pointed at everything except the real culprit. Moisture doesn't care how careful the cuts were. It only cares how badly it wants to escape. But even when moisture is under control, there's another trap waiting, one most shoppers fall into, the second they hear the magic word, free. Mistake 6. The free cutting trap. The cashier smiles. Do you want us to cut that for you? It's free. And just like that, the most dangerous word in retail has worked its magic. Free sounds helpful, convenient, time-saving. But here's the truth, most shoppers don't find out until the damage is done. Home Depot's free cuts are not precision cuts. They're rough, splintered, uneven, and nowhere near accurate enough for finished work. The saw they use isn't calibrated for perfection. It's built for speed and for getting oversized boards into car-sized spaces. The blade chews. The measurements drift. And once that cut is made, the wood can't be returned, and the mistake can't be undone. Even worse, those rough ends often cost more time and material when fixing them than if the board had just stayed long and been cut at home. The store's saw might save a few minutes in the aisle, but it steals hours in the workshop. Use the free cut for transport, not precision. If the wood is meant to be seen or hold weight, let the home tools do the work. And while we're talking about saving money, there's a myth that drains more wallets than a warped 2x4. Mistake 7. The cheapest wood isn't the cheapest choice. There it is, the lowest price per foot. The deal that almost screams, winner! You don't walk away from that. You grab it. You feel clever. You feel economical. You feel like you finally beat the system. But here's the truth. That bargain wood is the most expensive mistake almost everyone makes at Home Depot. That discount pine board looks fine in the cart, but put it outside for a summer, and it turns into a fuzzy, cracked, swollen mess. That pressure-treated lumber seems like a smart upgrade until it starts off gassing chemicals into your living room, warping bookshelves, and making everything smell like a damp dock. That mystery sheet of plywood with the cheap sticker? It bows when humidity hits, peels at the edges, and sends your entire project into wobble mode, no matter how many screws you throw into it. Cheap wood doesn't just die faster, it destroys what it's attached to. It's not a deal. it's a debt. And the emotional punch is the same every time. You stand there, staring at a sagging shelf or a rotted bench, asking yourself why it failed, when the truth is, it was never built to last. Home Depot knows this. They put the bargain bin right at eye level. They tuck the good stuff up high, out of reach and out of mind. Not because they want to help you save money, but because they know you'll be back to fix what broke. That's the business model. The real secret isn't saving money on wood. It's knowing when the higher price actually buys back your time, protects your build, and keeps your pride intact. So the next time your instincts say cheapest, stop. Ask yourself instead, what will this cost me a year from now? Because there's a kind of cost that doesn't show up on a receipt, and it's the one that hurts the most. But even when you finally choose the right wood, there's a silent trap waiting in the cart, the mistake almost everyone makes before they even check out. Mistake 8. Buying just enough. And getting burned. The list is tight, the measurements are exact, the math checks out. 5 boards, not 6. 1 sheet of plywood, not 2. Because you're smart, you're not buying more than you need. Except that's the mistake. Wood isn't perfect. Boards twist, corners chip, knots snap out. One bad piece can derail your entire project. And one missing board means one more trip back to the store. Suddenly the build stops. The momentum crashes, and what was supposed to be a weekend job turns into a 2-week annoyance. Even pros don't buy exact quantities. They expect flaws. They calculate in waste. They know that lumber isn't a math equation, it's a gamble. Buying just enough is like walking a tightrope without a safety net. One slip, and you're starting over. And the cost isn't just money, it's time, energy, and the frustration of knowing a project that should be finished is now sitting in pieces because of one missing board. Add one extra, always. If you don't end up needing it, you return it. But if you do, you just saved yourself a wasted afternoon, a broken schedule, and a stubborn mistake you'll never make twice. And speaking of returns, there's one more mistake that catches people right when they think they're done. And it's waiting at the customer service desk. Mistake 9. Assuming everything can be returned. The project's finished. Or maybe it's not. Either way, the leftover wood is still sitting there, unused, untouched, and now somehow, your problem. No big deal, right? Just return it. Except now the label's torn, the board's cut, the barcode won't scan, and suddenly that just-in-case purchase is now a permanent resident in your garage. Home Depot's return policy sounds forgiving until it's not. Cut lumber? Not returnable. Damaged boards? Not returnable. Lost receipt? Good luck explaining that at the counter. Most shoppers learn this the hard way, when they're standing in line, watching money walk out the door in the form of a store credit they'll never use, or worse, a flat rejection. The smart move isn't just to buy extra, it's to protect everything you might return. Keep the stickers on, keep the receipts. Don't cut anything until the bill demands it. The return counter doesn't care how nice you are. It cares how prepared you were. But even after all this, there's still one mistake that costs more than all the others combined, and it happens the moment someone stays quiet when they should have asked for help. Mistake 10. Staying silent. Instead of asking for help. The aisle hums with the sound of forklifts and quiet confidence. You move through the rows of lumber like a seasoned pro, scanning boards, reading labels, pretending you've got it all figured out. You don't need help, you've watched the videos, read the forums, done your homework. But that's exactly where the trap waits. Because while pride keeps most people quiet, silence keeps them broke. Right there, 10 feet away, is someone who spends every day surrounded by this wood. Someone who knows which rack just got a new shipment, which pile has been baking in humidity for a week, and which stack holds the straightest boards in the store. They know which type splits when nailed, which one curls after drying, and which great deal is actually a trap. They've seen the aftermath of bad choices, the returns, the complaints, the warped disasters, And they could save you from all of it, if you just ask. But most people don't. They walk in with confidence and walk out with regret, because it's easier to pretend to know than to risk looking like a beginner. That's the ego tax. And it's expensive. The irony is brutal. The people who ask the most questions build the best projects. They don't waste money guessing. They don't overbuy or underbuild. They get insider advice that never makes it onto a price tag. Asking isn't weakness, it's leverage. And in a store designed to make you feel confident while quietly draining your wallet, leverage is everything. So the next time you're in that aisle, take the small risk. Ask the awkward question. Talk to the old hand stacking boards near the forklift. That moment of humility could save hundreds of dollars and hours of frustration. Because silence is the most expensive mistake in the store. And now that all 10 mistakes are out in the open, it's time to face the truth you were never supposed to see. The one that changes how you'll shop forever. Now you know the lies, the traps, the silent costs hidden between the aisles. You don't just roll a cart into Home Depot anymore. You walk in like someone who sees the hidden game and chooses not to play it. So if this video didn't just change how you shop, but how you think do the smart thing, hit that like button and subscribe.